age and older women. So I'm very mindful. Be kind, be nice. Don't be too much of a smart aleck. Women don't like that. And yeah, it's probably not a good idea to mock somebody, a lady particularly. So I was trying to be on my best behavior today. And I opened the phone lines up and oh my, the women were going after this mother, Stephanopoulos. I'm not buying that she's a woman, Brannon. I think we're all being fooled. They were woo-wee. They were going after her today. They're upset. They're also very upset because they realize this is an attack, not only of the Jews, but you're defending Hamas. They carried out what they did on October 12th. Murdering people, raping people, burning them, cutting off the feet of babies, putting a baby in an oven, gang raping people. What's that, Logan? October 7th, what did I say? Sorry, October 7th. Thank you, Logan. They're upset. They're angry. They also see it as an attack on Christianity, the Bible. They're mocking, really. Oh, that's all myth. That's made up. That's not in the Bible. But yet it is. We'll talk about that tonight. So there you go. It's very interesting. A lot of our female audience, they're very discerning, obviously, but they're also very vocal. And they were being even tougher than I was. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So this interview with Tucker, boy, he's really poked a hornet's nest. But I want to have on Trevor Loudon tonight because I want to know about the Russian Orthodox Church a little more. I also want to play a clip from you where I interviewed a former KGB officer who came to America, started warning about the Russian Orthodox Church. I want to ask Trevor Loudon about the Russian Orthodox Church, this lady, her connection with it, and how Russia, along with China and Iran, have helped to feed a lot of propaganda into America to divide Americans and to divide now even the conservative base, to divide MAGA. This is a massive psychological operation. What is going on with Tucker Carlson? Why is he doing it? Let's ask Anni Cyrus tonight. What is he doing and why, do you think? But then let's talk about the Palestinian Liberation Organization. This woman, Mother Akapia Stephanopoulos, working in that area of the PLO, defending Hamas, as you heard her doing last night when we played the clips and on radio today at 1 o'clock Central. What is the connection between the former Soviet Union and the PLO? I'm going to give you a long history tonight. A lot of history many people have never heard. We're being played. We're being set up. This is a psychological operation inside of America to pit Americans against Americans, Christians against Christians. When I say Christians against Christians, that could be conservative dispensationalist Christians against Christians that are not dispensationalists. It could be little c Christians who are raised culturally as Christians but really aren't, against Christians who really are. But it's to pit Christians against Christians, Americans against Christians, Christians against Jews, Jews against Christians. It's to get us at each other. Don't you think Iran and Russia and China would love to see America fall and fall from within? And one of the greatest threats to them in the last few years has been the American people waking up. The American people waking up and realizing what's really going on. And that, hey, I'm not alone. Others see it and believe it the way I do as well. And there's been a great awakening in America. Politically, historically, people are figuring it out. From the Federal Reserve, the globalism, they're figuring a lot of this out. And you got to destroy this MAGA movement, this coalition of Americans, some of them who are Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians. They didn't agree on everything, but they agreed on enough of the big issues to form together a movement to try to save their country. How do you defeat that movement? You get them to fight with each other. You get them to going at each other. And you use lies to do it. Very important broadcast we're going to do tonight. and a lot of history that a lot of people just don't know. I wonder if Tucker Carlson has ever read the Hamas charter. I'm going to read some parts of it to you tonight. It comes from my series on Hamas. I did a long series on Hamas a few years ago. It's in the vault. I'm going to read from the Hamas charter tonight and then ask yourself, why on earth would Tucker Carlson give a platform to a lady to defend Hamas? And then Colonel Rob Maness, he's just written a great article, came out yesterday, for the Stars and Stripes. Here it is. Keep artificial intelligence out of the nuclear football. We're going to bring that tonight. So, Trevor Loudon, Anni Cyrus. I'm going to play a clip from my interview with the former KGB officer from, obviously, Russia, warning about the Russian Orthodox Church and how they're a front, what they're being used for. And then I'm going to interview Colonel Rob Maness. So why don't you tweet, text, email, Getter, True Social, whatever you do. Let everybody know we're on and to tune into Worldview Tube. Now, before we do that, I got to remind you, we're brought to you by you. I got to make this quick because I got a lot to do tonight. Please go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We have a lower third for it. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Bella Grace, you know, I take it every day. The Gatatana, which is the phytoplankton, you know, I take that every day. There it is right there. The Numi, I swish with that every day to detox my cells. Some studies show that this swish may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. This is also important. Your own health care, become your own urgent care with your own antibiotics on standby if you need them. Your own satellite phone, your own solar generator at Worldview Talk. Become a member of the Vault, have access to over 35 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. Please, Worldview, get your gold, put gold into your IRA, take possession of gold, get gold that's 1933 and older, so the government doesn't even know you buy it because they're not going to tell the government you bought it. It's up to you to follow the laws, but they're not going to call up the IRS and the government and say, hey, by the way, Joe Smith just bought gold from us. Now, if you're buying 1933 and older, because under federal law, those are collectibles and you can have them privately. Get some of your assets off the table, off the radar. Put gold in your IRA. Go to worldviewgold.com. All these sponsors only pay us if you do business with them. And these are great products, great companies, and I work with every one of them. I don't promote anything I don't use or promote myself or don't do business with. Same with the water filters. Got them in my sink, got them in my shower. I take the supplements, the Bella Grace, the Gatatana, all of it. And then don't forget about our national conference coming up, October 3rd and 4th. It's a Friday night and a Saturday. Okay? Going to be an amazing event. All the speakers live in the building, in person. You can find out how to register. Today we put up more information. We've put up all the hotel information. We double checked to make sure all the hotel phone numbers are accurate. Look at that. We put up a little bio on each speaker, little biograph on every speaker. We also, of course, have the schedule for Friday night, Saturday. We tell you what restaurants in town to eat at. And we didn't just put up every restaurant in town. We only put up the ones we personally endorse where we actually have eaten. Some of these are my favorite. Okay? I mean, I'm talking the commissary, that amazing barbecue. Woohoo! And the potato salad. Oh, baby. And the baked beans, I must tell you, are amazing. You might want to try some of their vanilla pudding while you're at it. There's Grizzani's on the main. Ooh, they have spaghetti with meatballs like you wouldn't believe. I'm telling you, these are a few of my favorites thrown in here. But every one of them I handpicked. I handpicked what was going to go on here. Because I'm like, I'm not sending my people to any restaurants that aren't any good. So I picked the best. Some are like really inexpensive and you can get in and out, like Jersey Mike's subs and Firehouse subs. But then I'm like, you know, if they want a good hamburger, Huey's has great hamburgers, by the way. Cow Baby, that's actually run by a friend of mine. That's real Italian food by an Italian guy, makes it right in front of you. Lots of great restaurants here, okay? So I've done everything I can to make it really easy for you guys to come to town and be a part of this event. And please register and show up. And will you do me a favor? Will you go to worldviewstore.com? Will you grab the URL to this? Will you tweet it? Say, hey, Worldview Tube's holding a national conference with all these great speakers. You guys should consider going. We're not trying to make money on this conference. We're just trying to break even. The prices, we lowered them drastically this year. We're just trying to break even. Will you do us a favor, though? Will you spread the word about this national conference? Ebook, or go to Twitter, Facebook, True Social, whatever it is you do. Spread the word. Go to worldviewstore.com. Go to worldviewstore.com. Click on the conference. Grab the URL and push it everywhere and say, hey, this is an amazing event. You should go and hear Gordon Chang and Mark Mitchell and all these speakers in person. Go and you'll enjoy it. Particularly if you know people that live 2, 3, 4 hours away. Easy drive in here. Okay? Spread the word. Help us. Will you do that? We sure appreciate it. All right? And if you can't make it, help us promote it. And if you can't make it, then you can watch by the vault if you have a year membership. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. But we'd rather have you here in person. All right? All right, we got to get going here. Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Well, by now, because it has gone viral, you guys have all seen the gas that Tucker had last night. She made a huge tidal wave of controversy. I think that's what Tucker thrives on. And we have to ask ourselves, who is this lady? I don't know. Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. I guess that's George's sister, we're told. But I had to do a little more research on her today. And as I did, I found out that she's tied to the Russian Orthodox. Oh, hang on now. Look at this. Evangelical leaders urge to hear Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos on plight of the Christians in the Holy Land. Okay. And I guess here she is. Russian Orthodox nun and sister of ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos. Okay, Russian Orthodox. Interesting. Logan, can you bring up on out of sabotage? See if you can find this segment where I interviewed the former KGB officer. And he talks about the Russian Orthodox Church and how it's been used by the KGB. Can you see if you can find that clip real quick? I've interviewed that guy. He's in my documentary. Trevor's interviewed that guy. I want to talk about Trevor, what he thinks of this. Now look at this. Here's a website, Islamicity. I mean, this is the 13th of August. This was posted yesterday. So already the Islamists are using it. Christians in the crossfire, an urgent plea for the Holy Land. And it's by Agapia Stephanopoulos. Okay? And it's, look, life as a Christian in the Holy Land, Israel's apartheid system, Muslims and Christians in Palestine, a misrepresented relationship, and on and on and on. All the American Christian Zionism, supporting persecution, land theft and destruction of Christian sites, and on and on and on, which we've proven is all lie. I mean, she actually described Hamas as just a resistance movement trying to protect their people. Hamas, they carried out October 7th. And yet Tucker Carlson gave this woman a platform. Pro-Hamas. How could you say it's otherwise? But here, I have to ask the question. What role is there of this being more propaganda using the Russian Orthodox Church? Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Trevor, I interviewed that former KGB officer out of Maryland. You've interviewed him. He won't talk anymore because I think he's afraid because some guys like him started, finding an early demise. So I called him for other interviews. He wouldn't talk anymore. He wouldn't talk for you anymore. But when he was talking, he said, look, the Russian Orthodox Church is greatly used by the KGB, now the FSB. Yeah. True?
Oh, well, 100%. It is completely an organ of the state. The current Russian Patriarch, Kirill, is a widely acknowledged, the Russians don't even deny this, he's a widely acknowledged KGB agent. And this woman, Agapia Stephanopoulos, was a part of the staff of the Russian Orthodox Bethany School for Girls, which sounds very noble. but it has direct relationships with the Russian Orthodox Patriarch, which is completely controlled by the KGB and various Palestinian government officials, Palestinian Authority, Ministry of Education, etc. It is a communist training school. And this woman is a hardcore leftist. Fancy that. A former advisor to Hillary Clinton having a sister who's tied to a KGB front. Can you imagine how strange that is?
Yeah, how strange.
So, so look, this is what they call a psyop. So this woman is a complete leftist. She tells lie after lie after lie, and Tucker gives her a platform, which is his pattern. He hates Israel with a passion. And now the goal of the Russians and of Hamas is to drive a wedge between the American evangelical Christians and Israel. Because that's, evangelical Christians have supported Israel even better than most American Jews have. So to destroy Israel, you got to break that bond. And this kind of story, these bogus stories of Israeli persecution of Christian communities, which are completely bogus, is designed to do that, designed to get American Christians questioning American support for Israel. This is a Russian, this serves the purpose of Hamas and Russia, and Tucker Carlson has just perpetrated a massive fraud on the American people, one of many he has done in recent times.
And when I went to the website that tells about the history of this group, let's see, here it is. Let me find it again. I did have it here. I got so many buttons opened. But when I did have it open, and I'll find it here in just one second. Here it is. Bethany Community of the Resurrection, Orthodox School of Bethany, right?
Yep.
At the start of the 20th century, Bethany was just still a small village not far from Jerusalem. Here in Bethany, the Russian ecclesiastical mission purchased a modest piece of land close to the tomb of Lazarus with the intent to accommodate Orthodox pilgrims. Now, as I use the keyword Control F, I learned Russian. I put that in there. Russian language started in the 3rd grade. Wait a minute. We're going to teach Arabic, Russian, and English. Why? Why? I mean, I guess it's great to speak many languages, but this is clearly looks like a Russian school, Trevor.
It is. It's a Russian school run by a KGB front. So this is a Russian influence operation, and this woman has just been allowed on Tucker Carlson to spout a whole series of lies to confuse American Christians. That's what this operation is, 100%.
Now, wasn't it true that Yasser Arafat got his training from the KGB, from the Soviets?
Yeah, he did. He was a KGB agent. He was the Palestine Liberation Army was set up by the KGB. And so I should make a point here. A lot of Americans don't understand Middle Eastern Christianity. Now, there are Christians amongst the so-called Palestinian population. But it's like when you say Christians, these people don't go out door knocking and holding rallies. They are ethnic Christians. They were brought up, their parents were Christians, their grandparents were Christians. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, they don't proselytize, and they're very secular. They might go to church. Most of them would go to church maybe on Easter and Christmas. They are ethnic Christians. Just like, when you had the Catholics and the Protestants fighting in Northern Ireland, the Catholics who never went to church fighting the Protestants who never went to church. They were Marxists fighting the Royalists. This is, look, the many of the so-called Palestinian Christians are in the Communist Party. Most of them are secular. Many of them support Hamas. This is not Midwestern evangelical Christians The head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, George Habash, who did all the plane hijackings in the 1970s, who was an open Marxist-Leninist who swore to destroy Israel, was a Christian. He was brought up as a Greek Orthodox Christian. But what he did had nothing to do with Christianity. And I would say this is what Agapia Stephanopoulos is doing. She's fooling American Christians to think these so-called Palestinian Christians are actual, like believers, like Midwestern evangelicals. No, they're ethnic Christians, many of whom support Hamas. Many of them are in the Communist Party. Many of them are terrorists and guerrillas, but they're being used to pull a scam on American Christians to make them weaken their support for Israel.
And seems as though Tucker is setting up, in my opinion, the persecution of real conservative Bible-believing Christians. He's really always going after the Christian Zionist, or letting his guests go after the Christian Zionist. Christians that believe in the millennial reign of Christ. She said that's a false theology. It was made up. Well, what is the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done where? On earth.
On earth as it is in heaven.
So what is that? Yeah. That's the millennial reign. So Jesus was teaching a false theology? Because he was teaching his disciples to pray for the return of the Lord, pray for and look for the blessed hope and the establishment of the 1,000-year millennial kingdom that she says is not real, not in the Bible. She cites some counsel to say it's been proven wrong. Whatever. It's in the Bible. Okay, and it seems as though the ones that really study the Bible seriously, obviously, tend to be dispensationalists. Whether people agree with dispensationalism or not, it just simply means, for those who maybe are wondering, God works in different ways at different times. His character never changes, but he works in different ways at different times. He worked in the Old Testament prophets. Then for 400 years, he's silent. Then we have the New Testament prophets and apostles, right? John the Baptist being the last of the Old Testament prophets. And then the start of the church. And now the Lord is working through this dispensation of the church age. Then at some point, if you believe in the pre-tribulation rapture or mid-trib, whatever you believe, the church is removed. You're in the tribulation. You're in a different dispensation. Lord's no longer working through the church, who is now perceived as being in heaven, according to reading of the book of Revelation, with the 24 elders around the throne, representing the church by the very things that the Lord himself said he would give the church if they were faithful: a crown, gold, white robes, and thrones. And voila, after the second and third chapter of Revelation, voila, you start seeing in the book the 24 elders with robes, white robes, thrones, crown of gold. I think that represents the church. And then there's no church mentioned until you get into around chapter 19 and the marriage supper of the Lamb, which I think takes place in heaven. Then the return of the Lord, Revelation 19, and then Armageddon, Revelation 19. So where was the church from chapter 3 to chapter 19? Well, we're in a different dispensation, and now you got not the Lord working through the church, because the church is not here. You got the Lord working through many things, including Jewish evangelists who come to use Messiah, but two prophets that appear, which I think is Elijah and Moses, and you got angels flying across the sky, right? Today it's the church. Go ye therefore into the world and preach the gospel. The church goes out. We preach, right? We teach, make disciples. The church is gone, and now the Lord's using angels flying across the sky. He's working in a different way, in a different dispensation, but his character never changes. The other thing about dispensationalism is they believe that God has a plan for the Jewish people, the Jewish state. I should say the Jewish people, not necessarily the state, the government of Israel, but the Jewish people spread all over the world. And then they would come back together, the dry bones in Ezekiel. And that happened in 1948. And so the Lord's going to use the Jewish people. And this is really And another part of dispensationalism is we study the Bible in context, verse by verse, using hermeneutics, going back to use Scripture to confirm Scripture, Scripture to interpret Scripture. Now, if you go after, Trevor, those kind of people, Christian Zionists, dispensationalists, you are going after some of the most Berean of all Christians, the most serious, studied, committed Christians you'll find on the planet. These people are so serious, they take that study of the Bible to a scientific level, seriously, literally. And that's who it seems those Tucker, in my opinion, is helping set up to create a hatred toward those people.
Look, 100%, because the Christian Zionists are very allied to the Christian nationalists, you see, which are one step away from Nazis. This is the Jews are under attack right now, but it's coming for the Christians, and this is being set up that the traditional the real American Christian, the backbone of real Midwestern American Christianity, who supports Israel, who has the debates that you have just mentioned, takes the faith very seriously. These are completely antithetical to what you call the KGB-controlled Russian Church, Orthodox Church, or the Hamas-influenced Palestinian churches. There's night and day. They call themselves Christian, but they're completely different. And these, so the goal of the left is basically to destroy what we would, the kind of Christianity you've just described. They don't mind a Christianity that does what the state tells it, like it does in Russia or it does in Palestine, or as a propaganda wing for Hamas. But real American Christians who support Israel, support the Constitution, believe America has a special place in history, and take their Christianity seriously. This is a whole different thing we're talking about here.
And so let me throw this in here real quick. So before we run it, because I know you got a hard break. Here's this lady claiming that this woman, Stephanopoulos, is now with the New York GOCK, which I guess would stand for the Greek Orthodox Church. And one of the faithful who chose not to join the Moscow patriarch.
Yeah, now that was a bit surprising to me, because she was with a church that did support the Moscow Patriarchy, was under the control of the Moscow Patriarchy, and now she isn't. So I don't know the significance of that. But she is still echoing the talking points that Moscow would want to be, want to talk about. You got to understand, Hamas calls Russia their best friend.
Say that again. Again.
The leadership of Hamas calls Russia and Putin their best friend, their best ally in the world. A lot of people don't understand that. They think Hamas is an independent actor. Hamas works for Russia. Russia trained many of the Hamas guerrillas who attacked Israel on October the 7th. So this is very consistent. The Russians have two main goals: to destroy Israel, destroy the United States. Divide Israel and the United States by telling American Christians that Israelis are persecuting Christians in so-called Palestine. That is driving the wedge. Just as Tucker says things like Zelensky is persecuting Ukrainian Christians, which is a complete 100% bald-faced lie to stop any American support for Ukraine. It's exactly the same principle. It's driving wedges.
And what motivates Tucker? Is he deep state? Reportedly his dad with the CIA. Reportedly Tucker at one point wanted to be in the CIA. Apparently didn't get accepted. I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. What is this dude's goal?
I think Russia is. I think Tucker's fallen for the Russian propaganda narrative that the Russian Orthodox Church is going to save the world from George Soros and the Muslim hordes, even though they are backing George Soros and the Muslim hordes.
Well, he just let a lady sit there and tell us how great Hamas was.
I know. Look, Tucker Carlson has all his guests virtually are all either pro-Russian or anti-Israel. I can give a whole list of them, from Darryl Cooper to Alexander Dugan to Glenn Greenwald to Jackson Hinkle, the communist Dennis Kucinich, Dakota Lilly, Tara Reid, Stephen Cohen, Omali Ishitala, Max Blumenthal, Vadim Novinsky, all Russian propagandists, virtually all anti-Israel. That's the only guest that Tucker tends to have these days. He has got a very deep agenda. It's not pro-American, and it's very, very anti-Israel.
Well, the question is, who's funding him? Because isn't he destroying what was his natural base at one point in his career?
Yeah, well, it is, but I think he's probably got enough money now. And, what the Russians do and the Iranians do, they will direct a whole bunch of followers and bots to your website, which drives up your views, which drives up your revenue. That's how they pay their friendly commentators in the West. That's how they do it. So, look, I think Tucker is very ideologically driven. He really does not like Israel at all. You know, he had Darryl Cooper on, the so-called historian, who told us that Hitler was the good guy in World War II and Churchill was the bad guy. You know, Tucker has got some very, very screwed up views, and he consistently promotes this kind of stuff.
I know I got to let you go. Listen to this. I think this is Mother Acapia from 2002. Listen to this. Let me plug it in there, House. Here we go.
What about just the whole issue that the Israeli military puts forward, even in talking about Jenin, saying it's the home of most of the suicide bombers, that they are doing this for self-defense?
Well, I think that it's a little bit illogical. In going after suicide bombers, what creates the suicide bombers? The problem is the occupation and the whole injustice in the situation here. It's not going to be destroyed by destroying even or killing 100 or 1,000 men in each Palestinian town, if that's what they intend to do during this current invasion. What has to be done is made a constructive move towards peace and giving a fair settlement to the Palestinians to a portion of the land here. That will do away with any growing of bombers here.
So if we get this is how you could end the suicide bombers.
This is a complete lie. Surrender to the radicals. They won't bomb you and kill you anymore. Well, they will. Look, she has been a pro-Hamas propagandist for 20 years. That is what she is. And she comes from she was working for an organization with direct ties to the Moscow Patriarchy, which is completely controlled by the KGB. And Tucker Carlson, the great conservative, is platforming her and people like her on a daily basis. That's what we should all be looking at here.
Absolutely. TrevorLoudon.com. TrevorLoudon.com. Always, Trevor, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure, Brannon. Thanks so much.
And let me go to this clip where I interviewed this former KGB officer who came to live in America, warning about the Russian Orthodox Church being used. Watch and listen to this.
Joining me on the line now is Konstantin Preobrazhensky. He is a former KGB member, a member of the KGB. He lives here in America, and he is trying to warn Americans about the KGB. And he's joining us today. Sir, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, tell me your story. It's quite fascinating, and I know my audience wants to hear it.
In 1991, I left KGB and became its harshest critics. It has deceived Russians, saying that we have abandoned communism, we have allowed religion, so it's just the same as the Imperial Russia, though in fact Russia is still devoted to communism, still Red Banner is in Russia, still the corpse of Lenin, the Communist Party leader and founder of the Soviet Union, is glorified and worshipped on the Red Square. So just a lot of Russian Americans want to deceive themselves by a falsehood that Russia returned to the imperial period, which is not so at all. They only concealed, only hided their communism. What is the main symbol? There are no free business in Russia. The business is controlled by the government. And what is government capitalism? It is socialism. Lenin, the founder of the Soviet Union, wrote that socialism is government capitalism, just what we see now in Russia.
Government capitalism. Well, isn't that interesting? Because a lot of the radicals over here are pushing for what they call welfare capitalism, a welfare state capitalism, the merging of big government and big business. I mean, America is really going right down the path of the former Soviet Union. I mean, surely
Yes.
you can see that, can you?
Yes, it's a great mistake because the government, because the interference of the government into the private business brings nothing but corruption. We see it on the Russian example. And secondly, the socialism or government capitalism inevitably brings the Gulag, brings the massive repressions which the Soviet Union has suffered under Stalin. KGB is a child of socialism. Now it has penetrated into America. And I want America very much to become very sober about Russia.
In this next clip, Konstantin warns that Putin is working within America to create chaos and to bring America down to a second-rate nation, to weaken America internally.
The target of KGB intelligence here is aimed mostly at undermining America. Putin's aim is to lower America down to the level of the secondary country.
So lower America down and undermine America.
Yes. It is the thing which Putin understands very well.
Listen as Konstantin describes how the government-controlled Russian media regularly reminds Russians that America is the enemy of Russia, and America's enemies are Russia's friends.
In Russia, America has been openly named the main enemy. Sometimes it causes irritation here in America. Americans don't want to believe it. It's not surprising. When you take any Russian magazine or just listen to Russian TV inside Russia, you will see that they are openly naming America their main enemy. But Americans don't know it. American media does not write about it so much. For example, Russian media calls North Korea a friendly country. They say North Korea is our friend. Americans don't know it either. They're still sure that Russia and America are in the same position about North Korea.
So what you're saying here, just to recap again, because of your beautiful Russian accent, I want to make sure that our people heard that. You just said that the Russian television in Russia clearly states that America is the enemy. They also state that North Korea is their friend, and most Americans don't know this.
Yes, that's true.
All right, guys, that's from my documentary, Siege. It's like 6.5 hours or something long, Siege. And you can watch the whole thing absolutely free of charge if you're a member of the Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. Siege, Sabotage, Brainwashed America, so many of my documentaries and my books as ebooks and so much more. 35 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, and so much more right there. Conference DVDs from the Worldview weekends from years gone by. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. Now don't you want to watch the entire documentary? Well, you can if you're a member. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. You know what else? If you have a year membership, you're going to be able to live stream our entire Friday night, all day Saturday of our fall conference, October 3rd and 4th. You don't want to miss it. If you can't be here in person, which is way better, so you can go up and talk to the speakers and fellowship with like-minded Americans and Christians and patriots. But if you can't be here, you can live stream it. But you have to have a year membership. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. WorldviewTube.com/Vault. We'll be right back with Anni Cyrus right after this.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
All right, we're going to go to Anni Cyrus, but first, did you see the interview between Tucker Carlson and Mother Akapia Stephanopoulos? Did you see the unedited version? Here we go. Watch this.
So how are Christians doing in the Holy Land? Like, what's the situation?
You know, what a lot of people don't understand is they think Hamas is some terrorist organization. They're just a resistance movement. When they drag their own people through the streets and put their dead bodies on their family's doorstep because they're collaborators with Israel, I mean, they're resisting.
I mean, last time I checked, treason is a crime. I mean, it's a crime in this country, and you get the death penalty. So I just don't understand the difference, really. I don't.
And look at what happened with the Nova Music Festival. I mean, the music was incredibly loud. It was EDM. And this is loud music. It's very disruptive.
Yes, very loud, like really loud. I mean, and it could damage your ears, like severely damage your ears.
Exactly. And so, to my understanding, they made several requests to lower the music. They sent people over saying, please keep it down, and the Israelis refused.
So wait, you're saying Hamas kindly requested that they turn down the music and they just refused? Why?
So they had no other choice but to slaughter all of the attendees. And it's been very challenging for decades. I remember in 2002, there was a 17-year-old boy who was arrested because he allegedly threw a Molotov cocktail at an Israeli soldier. But this was a Molotov cocktail. He was making a mixed drink, perhaps, to try to offer it to a soldier. Sometimes, you know, you go to bars and they light the alcohol on fire because it's fun to take a shot.
I mean, I enjoy alcohol. I really do. I shouldn't drink as much as I do, but I drink a lot, like a lot. I would certainly accept that offering. Why wouldn't the soldier accept a drink if it was being offered to him peacefully?
It's possible the Israeli soldier misunderstood that, but they accused him of throwing it, and it lit the soldier on fire. You know, it's nothing you can't just put out with your hand. But they arrested him, and these are the kind of things that are happening.
Yeah, it sounds excessive.
I remember I was leading a group of American Christians, and I took them to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And
wait, I thought you said that Christians weren't allowed to visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Shh, Tucker. We're trying to perpetuate a narrative here.
Of course. I'm sorry. I was actually genuinely curious there for a second. Like genuinely curious. I'm sorry. Old habits die hard.
Play along, okay?
You were saying, I'm sorry, continue.
In Israeli society, the Christians are completely oppressed.
I mean, you're a Christian. Clearly you're a Christian. Why don't they let you be a Christian? I don't understand.
There's no freedom of religion. There's no freedom in our society to live as we'd like to live and worship as we'd like to worship.
And have you been able to convert anybody in the West Bank to Christianity?
Pass.
What's that?
Hard pass. Next question.
I love that. So I guess my last question to you, and I think where a lot of Americans and people in the West would be confused, is that, you know, we've seen a massive decline in Christians across the Middle East, in Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, even in the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. We've just seen decimated communities, like completely gone, and Christians just persecuted and slaughtered en masse across the world. And so I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that? I totally agree. So what do we do going forward? What's the next step?
You know, they've been trying to keep this story quiet, and, you know, I guess everybody has their secrets.
Oh, I mean, we all have secrets, of course. I mean, I was molested by a demon.
Yes, and I'm a man.
I mean, it's not such a secret.
Hey.
It's great to have you. Is your name Brigitte?
Okay, a little humor is good for the soul, right? Joining me now is Anni Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie, we did a whole hour on this last night with Aaron. Today, Dr. Woods, Dr. Lindstedt, with some new clips that I found even more to play today. This is going viral. Tucker has clearly been telling us where he's going, but this, I think, for many was like, are you kidding me? You're going to let a woman sit there and defend Hamas? I asked my guest today, has Tucker ever read the charter of Hamas? I can bring up some of the charter of Hamas while you respond, but how on earth did we get here? Remember when you and I and Aaron and probably Usama Dakdok and Sharam Hadian on the Saturday, America time, after the slaughter of the Jews, 1,200 murdered, burned, raped, babies' feet cut off, babies put in the oven, people gang raped, burned. How did we get to where someone like Tucker Carlson is going to give a lady a platform, I guess it's a lady, to defend Hamas? How did we get here? Although I must say, you and I and Aaron predicted this would happen. We kept warning our audience that day. My friends, you'll be shocked at how fast this boomerangs on Israel. You'll be shocked. Wait for it. It's going to happen. And boy, did it. Can you believe all that, Annie?
Can I believe it? Yes. Am I shocked? No. Am I disappointed? Absolutely.
So
I am
you're not shocked at the speed of which this has happened? The mainstreaming of Hamas?
No, not at all. And remember, this Tucker Carlson specifically, let me go to Tucker first before the rest of them. Tucker Carlson in last 6 months has openly showed us where he's going with his platform. This isn't the first time, at least for me, that I was, thinking, oh, great, another proof. Remember, Tucker is also the man who sat down and did a full, as he called it, awkward interview with the president of Iran right after the 12 days Israel-Iran war and gave him a platform to make Israel look like the bad guy and Iran like the best peaceful country in the region. Promoting IRGC, right after that promoting Hamas? No, I'm not shocked. That's where Tucker has been aiming since he left, even though I received a lot of backlash. But when he left Fox News, I said on one of my shows that don't expect him to be your hero. He's gonna start needing to fund himself. And unfortunately, our side, Brannon, either we like it or not, we don't have the funding the other side has. Most of us, we don't put our money where our mouth is. So if you notice, a lot of quote-unquote conservative Christians started leaning towards the middle and then joining the other side because they wanted to keep their fancy lifestyle going. And the only way to do that is to join the other side. Because the other side, like Islamic Republic of Iran, will pay you whatever you need to be paid to make Israel look like the bad guy, and make IRGC, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of them look like the good guys. This is a propaganda machine funded. Yes.
Can I just stop you right there for a minute? Because you're making a very interesting point, and one I really didn't think of till right now. And that is, isn't it interesting that apparently the billions of dollars that were run through USAID to fund, I mean, he say that was a CIA front, billions of dollars run through it to go to all kinds of so-called media journalist groups, right, on the right and the left, apparently. Isn't it interesting that after this President Trump comes into office, second term, that funding is shut down? Where are you going to make up the gap for that funding? Am I onto anything here, Annie?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes. Yes. We considered that a win, and it is internally. Well, what we underestimated is how much windows and doors we opened for the enemy to fund their own propaganda machine now, with all these big names and big networks and big platforms left with no money. And let's be honest, Brannon, 99% of those behind microphones out there aren't doing it for the right reason. They're doing it because they got used to the idea that channels like CNN or Fox News is going to give them millions a year to sit there and repeat a script. These people are an investigative journalist. None of them were. From day one, let's name names. Tucker Carlson, was he ever an investigative journalist? No. He was the news anchor who later on got a big research team behind him through Fox News to sit there and get him all the breaking news before anybody else could. He never done the work himself. As you said, he never sat there and read anything, including the Charter of Hamas or the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Iran, openly saying that this revolution was to open the path for global Islamization. Neither was Candace Owens. Candace, from day one, first she was the, oppressed black woman who found liberty in Republican Party. And then from there, overnight, she became a huge name with a team of funding and researchers and writers and producers and camera person and editors to make her look bigger and bigger. But then again, all of them ended up having to walk away from the networks and then realize, oh, wait, I can't get those millions sitting here reading. So they started being snatched by the enemy.
So you think that some of these people are actually being funded by, whether it's Russian groups, Chinese groups, Iranian groups, maybe the money gets pushed through who knows what organizations and on to others. I mean, do we have a paper trail? Is anyone researching that paper trail?
I am researching, but honestly, a lot of them are, looks like a lot of them are funding through, as you said. I don't think even, I'm not saying Tucker is innocent, but I don't think even Tucker knows a lot of his funding is coming from the enemy. They're sending the money through other sponsors that are giving the money. Even honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I am investigating. I don't have any evidence to give you tonight, but I won't be surprised if we even end up finding ties to Soros organizations through these fundings.
Look at this from this is my series. How long is my series on Hamas that's in the vault, Logan? I want to say it's like 11 hours. 11 1 hours that I did on Hamas, 5 years ago now, Logan? He's checking it out. I'll tell you after I read it. This is from that series. Introduction, The Covenant of the Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, August 18th, 1988. Hamas in America, yeah, that's what the series is called. Yep. Our struggle against Jews is a very great and very serious. It needs all the sincere efforts. It is a step that inevitably should be followed by other steps. The movement is but one squadron that should be supported by more and more squadrons from the vast Arab and Islamic world until the enemy is vanquished and Allah's victory is realized. Does that sound like resistors to you? People just resisting that are willing to stop getting suicide bombing if they just get a little bit of land and Israel has the rest? Oh, wait a minute. No. So the enemy is vanquished. The Hamas part that this is coming from is 11 one-hour shows. What year did I do those, Logan? August of 2019. August of 2019, and I did 11 1-hours on Hamas. So if you guys want to understand Hamas, 11 1-hours of documentation like this inside the vault. How did he know I was going to promote the vault? worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Here's Article 13 of the Covenant of the Islamic Resistance Movement. This is Hamas. Quote, there is no solution for the Palestinian question except through jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are all a waste of time and vain endeavors, end quote. So I only through the killing of Jews, through jihad. So there's different kinds of jihad. Well, that's true. But what is the main one Hamas practices, which is the terrorist wing of Muslim Brotherhood, which was started, by the way, what year? Muslim Brotherhood, 1928. Excuse me, Muslim Brotherhood founded in 1928. Then they founded Hamas in 87. And then they found CARE in 1994. Let me go back to a couple more and then get a response from Annie. Article 6 of Hamas Charter. The Islamic Resistance Movement is a distinct Palestinian movement which owes its loyalty to Allah, derives from Islam, its way of life, and strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. That's Israel, folks. Every inch. They don't want a little piece. They want it all. Article 2 of the Hamas Charter. Quote, the Islamic Resistance Movement is one of the wings of Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine, which constitutes the largest Islamic movement in modern times. And Muslim Brotherhood, folks, is all over the U.S. All over the U.S. Article 7 of the Hamas Charter. Quote, the Islamic Resistance Movement aspires to the realization of Allah's promise, no matter how long that should take. The Prophet, Allah bless him and grant him salvation, has said the day of the judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind stones and trees. Stones and trees will say, oh, Muslims, oh, Abdullah, there's a Jew behind me. Come and kill him, end quote. I could keep going. Do you think Tucker Carlson knows or even cares about the Hamas Charter that I just read?
Well, if I could add one more one of the Hamas parliament members, Fathi Hamad, he actually said on one of his speeches, televised speech in 2008, for the Palestinian people, death has become an industry. The elderly excel at this, and so do the children. This is why they have formed a human shield. And I quoted that on my Today Substack that came out earlier this afternoon, the human shield of Gaza. This is one of the members of Hamas who was in the parliament saying this in 2008. So, no, Tucker Carlson. Now, I will say this. I'm not going to say no. Tucker might have read the charter of Hamas, or Tucker might have heard some of their members talk. But the question is, does Tucker care? The answer is no. Tucker Carlson doesn't care. Because here's the thing. When you get this woman and give her a microphone, you know, Brannon, you've done this for over 30 years. Mm-hmm. You have, not that I ever recall, at least in the 9 years I have worked with you, you don't go just randomly pick up a name that's trending and give them a microphone. You do your due diligence. When the first time you were going to fly me to Memphis to be part of your documentary, The Siege, the only reason you picked up the phone and called me without running a background check on me was because Phil Haney vouched for me.
That's right.
And even with that, when we met first time in person, you very politely ran a quick questionnaire on me before you even let me sit at your desk and do the part. My point is, when Tucker gives a microphone to someone like Pezeshkian, which is the president of Islamic Republic of Iran, or this woman, Mother, however we say her name, I can't even say it. Akapia. Without even looking into the person, forget about their message, forget about Hamas. Looking into this woman's background, the funny, very, very well done clip you played at the beginning of our segment makes a great point. It doesn't matter what you're saying. Let's just fill in the hour, get the show out there so we can get the money. That's what Tucker's doing. And let's not forget, all of these Tucker Carlson shows are pre-recorded. They're not live. So you didn't know the woman. You got halfway through the discussion and you realize she's promoting Hamas, Islamization, bashing Israel for absolutely zero evidence. Don't release the show. Stop her, say, okay, listen, thank you for coming, but I'm not putting this propaganda out there. But Tucker Carlson doesn't care. None of them do. Their position isn't about the truth or defending Christ or protecting America. As I said, it's about their lifestyle. They are not willing to live life any day with a penny less than they had yesterday. It's the greed, it's the money, it's the power. To expect them to read anything or know the truth or investigate their facts, I think we're asking for too much of these people.
Here's an interesting little information. The KGB started grooming Yasser Arafat in 1963 to 1964 when he was a rising Fatah leader. The Soviet security agency threw its support behind Arafat becoming PLO leader in 1969. He then declared war on Imperial Zionism, a Soviet-coined term to vilify Israel. You agree with that history, right? That's documented history, right, Annie?
Oh, yes, that is absolutely documented, yes. And you know who lived over 30 years under Palestinian Authority or PLO of their life?
Who?
Tucker Carlson guessed. She has spent the last 30 years of her life living in the area that is under Hamas and PLO authorities.
And part of what looks like the Russian Orthodox Church, which we just played a clip of a former KGB officer who came to America telling me that church has been used as a front for the FSB, which is now, I guess, the new name for the KGB.
Oh yes, and also if again with all the research on her and all of that, I will be working on this. But I have come to find some evidence and documentation that the Moscow, the Russian Orthodox Church. Now I wrote about them about a month ago or 2 months ago because they had their annual Christian event in Tehran. Now you do the math, Brannon. The Russian Orthodox Church annual event was taking place in Tehran. The very Tehran that arrests pastors and shut down underground churches hosted an annual interfaith event with the Russian Orthodox Church. That being said, I also found more documentation and evidence that they have been openly pro-Palestinian Authority and at times pro-Hamas. There you go. That's what she's promoting on camera. She's part of that church. She has all, it's not, explain this to me, Brannon. You know Hamas, you know PLO, you know what happens. As of right now, that video hinted at it in a funny way, but literally compared to 1950 until today, the population of Christians on Gaza border has gone down to 1,000. Just 1,000 left in an over 2 million population of Gaza border and Palestinian territories. 1,000 left. Where in 1950, the Christian population was more than 65% of the population. You tell me, how does one woman who's supposedly so worried about Christians and Christianity survives under PLO and Hamas for 30 years? How?
How? Yeah, exactly. How?
She's not promoting Christianity. When you look into the history of her so-called school, majority of her students are Arab Muslim girls, not even Christian.
Let me mute that here, Logan, and let me show this. The Soviet Union and the Palestinian radicalism. The PLO, founded in 1964, was shaped by the KGB to destabilize Israel, a U.S. ally. Soviet funds and arms fueled PLO's Marxist, anti-Zionist agenda, aiming to weaken the West in the Cold War. In 1964, the KGB drafted the Palestinian National Charter in Moscow, approved by 422 handpicked PLO members, framing Israel as a colonial oppressor to incite anti-Western sentiment in the Middle East. The USSR ramped up its anti-Zionist campaign after the Six-Day War in 1967. That'd be 1967. The KGB launched its anti-Zionist campaign, Operation SIG, in 1968, aiming to sow chaos in the Middle East via anti-Israel narratives. And then they started grooming.
That was the same year. That was the same year that Moscow started referring to Israel as the Western imperial. How do we say the word?
Imperialistic.
Thank you. That the label started from that very time. That in order to turn Middle Easterns against Israel, that's when they said they are a puppet of Western countries. Whatever they do is coming from that end. And from there, a lot of people actually believe that, which to this day has been a question of Russia itself is in Western side of, so why is Russia okay but not UK? I never understood that. As an Iranian that was being taught about it in the school. I never understood why is Western Russia okay, Western UK not okay. But I guess I'm a rare mind that thinks a little bit.
Look at this one. Soviet media like Pravda fanned the flames through the 1970s by spreading lies of Zionist conspiracies, echoing the protocols of the elders of Zion to radicalize Palestinians and fuel global anti-Semitism. Now, the protocols of the elders of Zion, this is where they put out so much garbage and trash that it's not true, provably false, that the Jews are running the world and all the Jews are the bankers and running everything. This was being pushed by the Soviet Union. This is the same thing that is now percolated and is being promoted within mainstream of the so-called MAGA, conservative, patriot I use those words loosely, movement. True or false?
True. And here's a question for you, Brannon, since you are the expert when it comes to this. Why is it that recently, and I know this because I actually produce a show as a job where I pay my bills, where I have heard repeatedly from the host and the guests sitting there and saying, today, Christian Zionists, which is me and you, right? We are of followers of Judaism and we ignore the Bible. How does that fit into the narrative exactly?
Well, of course, obviously, if they watch my broadcast, they know I'm not ignoring the Bible. I'm teaching out of the Bible on Sunday nights, verse by verse. But what they're trying, I think, to say is that we have no biblical basis for what we believe. And that's where they then say things like this woman, again, if she is, this mother, is saying that the millennial idea of the millennial or 1,000-year reign of Christ, it's heresy. It's made up. And we've already said tonight, if that's the case, why was Jesus teaching the disciples to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven? Because that's what it's going to be. 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ ruling and reigning for 1,000 years on earth before we get the new heaven and the new earth. Why would he teach them to pray that if it's a fallacy, right? So I think what they're trying to do, Annie, is to leave the impression that everything that we are espousing or believing is simply made up. That's why they want to say, well, the idea of the church being removed, that was 1930s, John Darby, even though I can show you where early church fathers in like 180, were teaching the idea of the church being removed before the tribulation starts, okay? I can show you early church fathers teaching the idea of the rapture. Now, whether people agree with it or not, that's up to them. But to say this was a concept that was created not in the Bible, but out of the mind of John Darby or Charles Ryrie, and by John Darby created in the 1930s, is wrong. It's in the Bible. I teach it not because when I set out to teach Revelation, I said, look, I'm just going to teach the text. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I'm telling you, there are so many stinking signs. How do you have the churches, 7 of them being talked about extensively? And then all of a sudden, after Revelation 3, Revelation 4, you see a representation of 24 elders that are wearing white robes and crowns of gold and got thrones, which the Lord himself was promising the church on earth. If you follow me, you're going to get gold, crowns, white robes, and thrones. And then the next chapter, boom. And now there's no church mentioned. From Revelation 3, we see them now in 4 in heaven, and you go all the way to chapter 19. Now we're starting to see the marriage supper of the Lamb. So where have they been? Now, if you want to believe that, don't. But why does it also say in the Greek, I will take you out of? And the word for there in the Greek is out of, not through. I will take you out of that hour of testing. Why do we have the Lord returning in Revelation 19 with the saints, his bride, the church, and they've already got their robes? Well, when did they get those? Would have been at the removal of the church and the rapture. And I just can keep going on and on for the reasons. Now, I see it there, okay? And the restrainer has been removed, the Holy Spirit. He's been removed from restraining. What are you and I indwelt with? The Holy Spirit. The church is removed. The Holy Spirit is removed. Evil rushes in. I said to Logan today, because Logan said to me, Dad, do you realize that what you teach and what you believe is extremely unpopular with today's young people? He said, Dad, when your generation is gone, there'll be nobody virtually here to say and teach what you do. Well, God always has his people. And if the world continues that long, he'll raise up maybe Logan, someone else. But by and large, he's right. There were a lot of guys that were teaching what I'm teaching. The mainstream of evangelicalism, Annie, believed this. Billy Graham, D.L. Moody, Charles Stanley. I mean, I could go down the line. Mainstream Christianity taught what we believe when it comes to Israel, the church, the rapture, Bible prophecy. Now it's decreasing greatly. It's now hated. Now the church has supposedly replaced Israel. God has no role for Israel. Replacement theologies come rushing in. And I'm one of the few guys left. There's not many of us anymore. And Logan's saying today, Dad, most young people today hate Israel. Well, if the church is removed and the Holy Spirit has been removed from restraining evil, that explains why all of a sudden in the tribulation, you're seeing the slaughter of Jews like crazy. There's nothing to restrain them. And there's nobody speaking up for them anymore. I mean, it's all lining up. And so I think what they're trying to do is to say that there's no basis in the Bible for what we believe. And yet, that's exactly what we do. That's what makes us dispensationalists. That's a term I defined on TV today, radio today, dispensationalism. They hate dispensationalism, which is about the study of the Bible in context, including what God is going to do with the Jewish people. Many of them who are in unbelief today. But they're going to become, many of them, believers. And the 144,000 Jewish evangelists, many of them are going to be slaughtered, Gentiles and Jews. But that's what we're known for, is our exhaustive, verse by verse, going back to the original Greek, using Scripture to interpret Scripture, Scripture to confirm Scripture. That's what we're known for. And we do it so scientifically and so laborious, because a good a workman, the Bible says that a workman rightfully dividing the word of truth, approved workman. We do it so laboriously and detailed and timely. I'm on 46, lesson 46, 1-hour lessons. And they want to say we don't teach the Bible. You see, all they're left with, Annie, is to say they didn't get this from the Bible. That's all they got. They know we do. They can see we're doing it, but all they can do is lie. And who is the father of lies? So a long answer. The reason they keep saying it doesn't come from the Bible is because most people will believe that lie. Tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. Just like people believe the country singer John, what's his name, Rich, and others who are saying the rapture idea came about in 1930s, like this woman's saying. That's a lie. Anyone goes to the research, you can find the early church fathers from 180 teaching it. That's a lie, John Rich. Why do you believe it? But most people don't go check it out. They're like, oh, John Rich said, oh, Tucker Carlson said it. So all they got to do is say it's not in the Bible, and most people will believe it.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Those who accuse us of not following Christ or not paying attention to the Bible are very people who are defending those who practice Islam and follow Allah that we have proven to be Satan.
That's right. So what does that tell you? What source are they plugged into?
Satan.
That's right.
Evil. And that's where, I'm sorry, but this mother, whomever she is, I did a really deep dive. She has nothing to show for her so-called claims. Nothing. She is not worried about Christians of Middle East. She is not worried about defending Christ. She is literally tapping into the empathy of Western Christians to promote the same propaganda PLO does. And it's sad that she's trending, by the way, so I should add that.
Yes,
it is sad that she's trending. It is sad. If I don't have any membership to Tucker Carlson. I don't watch Tucker Carlson. I don't follow Tucker. But if I was and I saw this episode specifically, I would absolutely boycott all of his sponsors, and I would absolutely boycott the show itself. There is a line. We need to draw the line. There is so much we can enable a spread of lies before we stop it.
Do you think that Tucker went too far this time?
Absolutely.
Do you
For
think
me
this is going to
personally,
really cost
he
him?
already. I hope it does. I hope it does. I honestly do. I don't think it will, because he still sings the tune to the majority of MAGA club. So and that's the thing. Unfortunately, a lot of his audience are not tuned into the truth and the real dangers we're facing. They prefer to hear, where our administration is doing all the right things. Now, if he continues staying on the path he is, he might lose them too, because he's not really doing much of politics anymore. If he used to, but not anymore. But I do hope that he does face consequences for this one. I was praying he would regarding Pezeshkian, That one went very unnoticed, except your show and my show. Nobody talked about it at all. But that was big as well. But this one is huge. To hide, to bring a quote unquote Christian to promote Hamas, that's crossing way too many lines in so many fronts.
And she's attacking the Bible. She was involved in, I think, blasphemy. She's saying that the very doctrines that Jesus himself taught are a myth, a lie. This woman crossed the line with God. I asked my radio audience on 74 Christian stations to pray that Tucker Carlson will repent. And if not, that God will judge him. I am ready for God to judge some of these Jew-hating anti-Semites so the world can see that God, and they will in God's due time, God's not kidding. He's keeping a scorebook, by the way. And his time for judging them is not going to be mine. It'll be his. But I'm praying that Tucker will repent. But if not, God judges him. No one else. God. So the whole world can see that you can't blaspheme God. You cannot choose this side and think you're not going to be cursed. Genesis 12:3. I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you. Does that mean we agree with everything the Israeli government does? No. The blessing, by and large, I think, when you bless the Jews, is give them the gospel, which is why I love groups like Jews for Jesus and my messianic friends who believe in Yeshua and Messiah, like Aaron and Marty Getz and Olivier Melnick and Arnold Frutenbaum and on and on. But I pray that God will judge him for everybody to watch. And then we can say, you see, here's an example. But God will do it in his time. But you know, that's also in the Bible. One of the seals is opened. John talks about one of the seals. And what you see is the saints under the altar in heaven praying and asking the Lord, how long? These are tribulation saints who have been murdered in the tribulation period. I would think both Jews and Gentiles. And they're saying, how long, O Lord, before you avenge us? How long? They're crying out in a voice, a chorus of voices. And he says, here are your white robes. Just wait a little longer. Well, then we get over to Babylon. Revelation 18, God judges Babylon. And it says there, he does it because they have persecuted the saints and shed their blood. And then 19, the Lord God comes back at the second coming and slaughters all of these that are warring against God in the battle of Armageddon. And then he judges the false prophet and Satan and Antichrist. But Revelation 18 seems to be, in part, the beginning of the answer, the destruction of the New World Order headquartered in Babylon, I think 58 miles south of Baghdad. That area is being built up, by the way, with the fall port and everything else. And it says, because she, Babylon, has killed the saints and shed their blood. So there'll be the saints in heaven saying, how long, O Lord? Because will you judge? Because they killed us and they're killing more on earth. They seem to know in heaven a little bit of what's happening on the earth, and they certainly know what happened to them. So when I sit here and say, Lord, lead Tucker to repent or judge him, that's a biblical prayer. But God will do it. But I am ready to see God judge these people that are sitting here blaspheming the church, the real church, his bride, Christians, and siding up, as you say, Annie, with the side of Satan, because Allah is Satan. Look at this. The head of the KGB between 1967 and 1982, the head of the KGB, folks, Yuri Andropov, personally pushed Nazi-style hatred of Jews in the Islamic world, aiming to turn Arab resentment into a terrorist bloodbath against Israel and the U.S. He later led the Soviet Union, 1982 to 84. Isn't that interesting, Annie? They wanted to use this to stir up the Islamic world to create a bloodbath against Israel and the U.S. They're working on Israel, and now that same group is taking over America, the red-green axis, the Marxist and the Islamist. And yet, you and I are the few people that see Russia is aligned with Iran. Russia is aligned with North Korea. Russia is aligned with so many other nations. Turkey, China. All these groups want our demise. And I know people defend Russia and they defend Putin. And I will when I think, hey, European leaders, you're provoking a war with this guy. Why would you want to do that? That's not me defending Putin. That's me wanting our leaders in the world to be smart and not get us into World War III. That's not me defending Putin. Putin is aligned with all the countries that hate not only America, and most of them Israel, but he's aligned with Islamic nations that worship Satan and want the death of Christians and are slaughtering Christians throughout the Middle East. Annie?
Yes, and let's face it, Russia, not even naming any specific leader, Russia, its history, if you actually study the history of Russia, Russia has been always more worried about power than ever cared about any faith for that matter. A lot of people think Soviet Union collapsed, but did it? Brannon, did it?
Well, that's the point I make in my documentary, Siege, is did it? Did it really collapse? Or was that a head fake because they knew that they couldn't keep up with the U.S.? They were having economic problems. They faked their collapse, if you will. While they were collapsing, they also said, well, go ahead and do it. They opened themselves up to aid from the West, technology from the West, and then they used a lot of that technology for their military purposes as well. It had civilian and military application, and they used it. And look at where they are now today. They're on fifth and sixth generation warfare technology we don't even have, according to four-star generals before Congress.
And that is exactly what I refer to on all my writings as the rebranding of the enemy. They did it with Russia. They did it right now as we speak. They're doing that rebranding with Syria. Look at the aids, look at the help, look at the handshakes, look at all of that that's going to Syria. They did it with Pakistan. Look at Pakistan nuclear capabilities. The question is, when are we going to learn to stop looking at the surface and dig a little deeper and realize this is all PR?
It's propaganda, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it didn't start last year. It didn't start with Obama. It's been going on way longer than we started paying attention.
And this is what the former KGB officer said in my documentary, Seed, or Sabotage.
Sabotage.
Yeah. Look at this. 1970, Palestinian Liberation Organization was expelled from Jordan after launching a civil war there, known as Black September. It resulted in the Soviet Union intensifying its aid for the PLO, but now started supplying arms and funds, mainly via Lebanon. Another source of Soviet weapons for Palestinian terrorists was opened when the communist state of South Yemen was created in 1967. It was there that Wadi Haddad received a lot of his Soviet weapons. In 1974, Soviet backing helped the PLO gain UN observer status, legitimizing their anti-Israel narrative globally, framed as a Marxist struggle against Western imperialism. It increased anti-Zionist narratives in the UNGA. KGB's 1965 UN push to label Zionism as racism failed, but succeeded in 1975 with Resolution 3379, amplifying PLO's anti-Israel propaganda worldwide until it was revoked in a new UN vote in 1991. Arafat's 1970 Moscow visit, hosted by Brezhnev, solidified Soviet PLO ties. The KGB started providing $200,000 monthly to Arafat via Romania's security agency chief, Ion Pasipa, for anti-Israel operations. Soviet books like Yuri Ivanov's Caution Zionism, 1969, spread anti-Zionist tropes, radicalizing Palestinians by equating Israel with Nazism and imperialism. The Soviets made sure to send tens of thousands of copies to the Middle East. The head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, wrote his PhD thesis in 1982 in Moscow. It denied the Holocaust, spread Soviet-produced lies to fuel Palestinian anti-Zionist militancy. The Soviet collapsed in 91, or did it?
Did it?
Ended direct KGB support, but decades of Marxist propaganda via PLO left a lasting anti-Israel radicalism in Palestinian society, fueling the ongoing conflict. Russia continues its support for Palestinian terrorists such as Hamas. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Is Russia aligned to this day, 2025, with Hamas, Annie?
Absolutely. Russia has always been aligned with, now this is a historical facts about PLO, but if you go even further back, you see the alignment or alliance of Russia, or also known as Soviet Union, with Iran's times and dynasties of Islamists. As you established earlier, they have used Islam for the chaos, for the benefits, for making themselves relevant in Middle East over and over and over. And as from their government to, as I said, their Orthodox Church has always been a support from day one. They have supported the PLO and openly at times Hamas. They have defended Hamas. Just like their latest member, this mother sitting there defending Hamas. With a straight face saying Hamas is not necessarily a terrorist group.
So where do you think this is all headed, Annie?
Unfortunately, I truly believe that if Christians don't stop helping spreading all of these lies, this is going to go exactly where we've been expecting it, way faster than we were expecting it, where Jews and Zionists are going to be openly and publicly targeted. And I mean, in hurtful ways, not targeted by a bunch of keyboard ninjas. No, I mean actual attacks and bodily harm to Jews and Zionists. Because that's the thing, anti-Semitism been skyrocketing for sure. But as you've noticed, Brannon, now the narrative also has the Zionist, Christian Zionist in it. That's also becoming a target. So if Christians don't stop spreading all of these lies, we might very soon see the, attacks on Jews and Zionists. It is in America now. I mean, last I checked, Tucker Carlson is in America.
Right.
And he is helping this machine to spread that message. I mean, he has no problem sitting there arguing with Ted Cruz over verses of Bible and where does it say we have to protect Israel. But he had no argument with this mother, right? None. No biblical argument with her. Right there, you should see where he's going. He has spent his whole interview. I'm not saying Ted Cruz did a great job, don't get me wrong. But as someone who conducted few interviews myself, if I have enough arguments of biblical verses with one guest, I'll have enough of it with the other one too. But when I keep my mouth shut and don't bring a single biblical verse up while she's disrespecting the Bible, I am telling my audience exactly where my head is, where my heart is.
Annie, your website, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, is so important. It's so important, folks, for you to subscribe. Welcome to the Sharia free zone. She has so many things there.
I strongly suggest for your audience to read my latest from today, Gaza's Human Shield. I know everyone has heard of it, but it is a very different format of it. This is where you see the actual evidence of Hamas committing war crime. I literally have Geneva codes and articles in there of proof. I'm hoping someone, I doubt it, but I pray that some international lawyer is going to grab this information and actually try to drag Hamas to the International Criminal Court for evidence within this one Substack showing that they are committing not just against Jews, forget it. We want to worry about the Palestinian victims. We want to worry about the Muslim victims. Here's your evidence. Take Hamas to court. They are committing war crime against Palestinians and Muslims.
Well, there it is. Gaza's Human Shields. liveuptofreedom.substack.com. liveuptofreedom.substack.com. And don't forget about her art. LUTFstudio.com. LUTFstudio.com. All handmade by Annie. Beautiful artwork, including dominoes, checkers. These all make great Christmas gifts. And by the way, you better get on board and get these before they sell out if you want any of them for Christmas, because the orders flood in and she can't keep up and the inventory goes real low. So if you're wanting to get, because she makes these herself, handmade, okay? There's only one Annie. She also has another job. So if you want to get any of them for any Christmas gifts, you better do it sooner rather than later, because the inventory won't last. Then she'll have to build it back up after the new year. So there you go. liveuptofreedom.substack.com, but her studio is LUTFstudio.com. Annie, I mean, we're one of the few networks that's holding the line. I hope our audience, I know our audience appreciates it. I hope they'll subscribe to your Substack. I hope they'll buy art from you. I hope they'll support us. Because frankly, we're one of the last games in town, as they say. We're one of the last groups around. Not many groups saying this. You know it. I know it. Most Christian radio won't even cover this. Most churches in America won't even cover this, much less conservative TV, and certainly not from a Christian biblical worldview perspective. I mean, we are really in a famine spiritually in this nation. It's hard to believe. Almost every house in America has at least one Bible, if not more. But there is a massive spiritual famine in the land. We just don't even have shepherds teaching anymore. We've got a lot of hirelings, but we don't even have churches many left that teach the Bible in context. And we really can't expect the conservative arena to do the job of the church being Christians, but church isn't doing it. Christian radio is not doing it by and large. Most Christian networks have long gone to just playing happy music in a big tent, raising all the money they can with a big tent. And as soon as you bring up these kind of topics, you're going to divide your crowd down big time. Particularly if you want to appeal to today's young people, you better not discuss this. Are you agreeing?
Absolutely, 100%. And here's another thing, Brannon, I mentioned on my show yesterday and Monday, I believe. I said, how did we get here? Christians are the majority of population of Earth. At the same time, Christians are the most persecuted population on Earth. Make that make sense. Because we are the silent majority on Earth. We keep keeping quiet about ourselves because we want to make sure the spotlight goes to the minority. What we don't realize is soon we will be the minority because they took us out one by one. We cannot continue being quiet, trying to coexist, trying to get along. We can't keep doing that. If we do that, as you said, as Logan mentioned to you today, there will be very soon a generation of godless people out there. And we played a role. If we kept quiet, if we didn't discuss Bible, if we didn't defend Christ, we are to be blamed for the godless generation that's coming after us. We will be held accountable. And as far as networks, yes, I can say in last 4 months, Brannon, the only network that has had Anni Cyrus on their shows, yours, Tamara Scott had me on 2 or 3 times. The only network that has invited me to come on to talk about Iran, Israel-Iran war, Palestine, been Worldview Tube. I have not been receiving a single phone call from any other conservative network, even when I wrote them and I said, you need to have me on to talk about these 12 days. I received nothing in return, not even a no thanks for your offer. So yes, I wouldn't say you're one of the rare channels. I would say you are the only network, at least when it comes to red, green axis and Islamization. You are the only network that's going to invite me. It's going to invite Sharon Hadian, Yosama Dakdok, Amin Farid yesterday. You are the only network. And every day on my show on your network, which again, no other network's picking up my show, they're all worried about their sponsors dropping them because I'm too loud. I literally had a network saying, we love your show, but you're too loud. I'm like, I can lower down my volume. They laughed. They said, we mean you have no filter. I was like, oh, so the new term for no filter is too loud. Got it. I mentioned, and I repeatedly mentioned, and I know your audience are already aware, but supporting your network is not just supporting Brannon Howse and your wonderful professional control room. It is also supporting silenced voices like mine and Sharon Hadian and the rest of us. Because if your network isn't there, Brannon, we're all going to be silenced again. You're the only platform that's allowing us to come up and say what needs to be said. Of course, you always ask us to have our receipt and facts, and you don't let us just come and speculate, which is wonderful. But you're giving us a platform. So I do encourage your audience, anybody, if you have, if you can skip your next morning Starbucks, do that and send in a tax deductible donation.
Well, thank you for that, Annie. You're right that our platform is not just about this broadcast. It's about Patrick Wood, you, Usama, Sharam, Dr. Woods, Rob Lindstead, Colonel Maness, Mara Scott. I mean, there's so many. And Patrick Wood has said he's been canceled. Google and all these people are shadow banning him. He said, I can't get the traffic I used to get. They changed the algorithm. And without platforms like Worldview Tube, who have a pretty good sized direct mail piece, we do direct mail piece to our audience. We literally do direct mail back to our audience, old fashioned direct mail, because it's so hard to get emails to our people. We go the old fashioned route. We're on 74 Christian stations, which allow us to mention this network. So you're right. Right now, we're using our platform to be a platform for others. And if they take us down, if they penalize us, which the IRS just stole 49,000 some odd dollars from us, stole it, literally stole it from us, threatening to seize our bank accounts if we didn't pay up money that they twice in a letter said we didn't owe. And when even the IRS agent said, this is ridiculous, you shouldn't be paying this, their supervisor said, no, make him pay it. Well, he has 2 abatement letters. We don't care, make him pay it. My opinion, your opinion, I think, Annie, I will speak for you, is that we're being targeted because of the fact we do cover what we cover. Closing comment?
Absolutely, yes. We are being targeted, and they are hoping, which they should have stopped hoping, it's false hope. Me and Brannon and the rest of Worldview Tube, we're not going to change sides because we need our paycheck. No, we are not, and that's the problem. When they did it, they think the rest of us will. No, there are still a handful of us who, as far as I'm concerned, listen, I went through 3 years of refugee status, not the fancy illegals you see here with hotel rooms and debit cards and cell phones. No, genuine refugee in Turkey, where I had to sleep literally on the floor with a newspaper under me and a bag of potatoes for 30 days as my food. God got me through that. I'm not worried about my bills. Neither am I worried about my paychecks. I don't need anybody to provide for me because God provides. But they are hoping if they squeeze and corner us enough, we're just going to change side or go silent, quiet, never talk about it, and they will win this. But again, we're on the right side, Brannon. No matter what they try to do, we both know what the end is, and we know we are playing our role, and we're going to continue doing what we can. And Lord willing, your network will stand strong so I can get a platform too.
Amen. And folks, please understand, what Tucker did with this woman is a direct assault on biblical truth, Christians, committed Christians. So don't just pass this off. Oh, that's geopolitics. That's, something happening over there. I believe this was a direct spiritual attack on Christians. And it's going to keep going as they seek to marginalize us, characterize us, and pretty soon, and in some ways they already are, terrorizing us. And then they're going to legalize the terrorizing. Marginalize, characterize, terrorize, and then legalize the terrorizing of Christians, Zionists, Jews. Do I agree with every Jew? No. Do I agree with every Christian? No. But they're going to make it so that it is legally acceptable to target the people they disagree with. And so don't think that what just went down was just politics and noise. It was a direct spiritual attack. It is what you're going to see an increase of until we are so marginalized that Christians that stand for the truth in the Bible and what the Bible says and believe in it, we are going to be considered the problem. We're divisive, we're narrow-minded, we're bigoted. They'll come up with all kinds of words. Extremism, made up, myth, fallacy, fantasy land, cuckoo, conspiracy theorist. They'll come up with all kinds of names until they've done their best to marginalize what's left of the American church. And there's not much left. I mean, not everybody's bowed the knee to Baal yet, folks. But they are going to continue to this agenda until you see it is going to be very evident who are the real committed Christians. We're about to hold our national conference. And we used to have regularly, now we've been doing this national conference 22 years. We used to regularly have 1,800 to 2,000, up to 2,800 people. You know what's happened in 22 years? A lot of my audience has either died or they become too old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've died or they've become too old. It's not that they just checked out and said, oh, we don't care anymore. No, we did that for years. At least 1,800, 1,500. You could count on it. But we're doing 2,000, 2,300, 2,800. Now, it's harder to get a crowd to come to our national conference. Why? Because a lot of those folks, they've gone on to glory. And those that haven't, they're too old. If you started something 22 years ago, and the average age was 60, well, how old are they now, right? 82. If they were 65, 70, right? A lot of them aren't here. This is a worldview that is literally dying off because there's not people going to the Bible. There are people attacking the Bible, and it's being attacked by mainstream broadcasters like Tucker Carlson. As my wife said last night when I got off the air, Brannon, did you ever think you'd see the day where someone like Tucker Carlson would become so anti-Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Closing comment, Annie?
You said it best, and yes, it's what Tucker did. Yes, it is direct attack on us, but it's also very enabling and empowering of the enemy. If he continues, and people like him, and I will specifically say Candace Owens, if they continue and if people continue enabling them, this Islamization is going to grow way faster. And again, your audience is very well aware of the end goal of Islam. They need to wipe all of us off the map or convert. Mm-hmm. So he needs to be held accountable. I understand you prayed for him to repent or be judged. But I also think on this earth, as humans, we have the power to show, and I mean, by boycotting and not watching, that's what I'm referring to, but we need to hold him accountable. Those who can write to him, show your, concern with what he did, and don't let him grow bigger, because we can't have people like Tucker Carlson helping the enemy in major ways. He is. I don't know. I think he is aware of what he's doing, but even if he isn't, that doesn't make a difference. We need to hold him accountable, and anyone else like him. Those who have millions of eyes on them and billions of dollars coming in, they need to be held accountable. That microphone they hold in front of them, that comes with responsibility, and it's time to remind them.
Well said. Ephesians 5:11. Ephesians 5:11 have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose it.
Amen.
That's what we just did. Anni Cyrus, liveuptofreedom.com. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Brannon. Be safe.
You too. Anni Cyrus checking in, liveuptofreedom.com. And thank you guys for all of you that do pray for us, that do support us, that make this broadcast possible. We are a listener-supported network. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. And folks, now you know why I'm pushing our national conference so hard. I think it's important for Christian groups like us to gather together. Don't you? I could say, you know, this will be the last year I'm going to do a national conference. There's not enough people that want to hear this kind of truth anymore. I could say that. But yet we know we have a lot of people watching. Well, there's a lot of people that just can't afford to come to an event like this anymore with the cost of living. That's true. I agree. There's a lot of people that would rather just watch it on their flat screen television, their iPad, and not travel here. Well, that's true too. It's a lot of work and a lot of expense to organize the theater and the speakers to come in and do that. It is. Oh, believe me, I thought about not continuing this a couple of years ago. But part of me says we've got to continue to provide a place for Christians to come together collectively to encourage one another. I need to see you. I need to shake your hand. I need to see you in person. I sit in a dark studio hours and hours out of the day. Don't even know what the weather is doing, except for when I hear the clap of thunder or get up and leave the studio for a moment. I have to have some contact with our audience. I think you need some contact with me and our other hosts and broadcast partners. You need that. I think it's important to build that relationship, that credibility that can only really be done to one degree in person. But I think it's important that we as Christians gather together. And that's why I've kept doing this conference. And maybe we'll reach a point where enough people financially can afford to come and be with us, and we won't hold a conference in person anymore. We'll just do it all virtual. Maybe we'll do that one day. Maybe next year, I don't know. But I do know, I think it's important that we send the message that we're gathering together, like-minded Christians from all over the country. And I promise you, when you leave, you're going to say, I'm so glad I made the trip to be there. We heard that from so many people for so many years, that it's an event they come to every year and they leave so encouraged. And they can't wait to get back together again with like-minded believers and Christians and Americans. This is a vacation with a purpose in one degree. I've used that slogan for years, a vacation with a purpose. But it's more than that. It's a conference. It's a conference for equipping people, encouraging people, edifying people. Very important that we gather together. So I hope that you will book the conference. We brought the price down to $99, as cheap as we could get it. We're not even trying to make money on it. We're not trying to. We'll be lucky. We'll be fortunate to break even. We're not doing it for money. It's a resource because I need to be encouraged. You need to be encouraged. We need to encourage each other. So I hope you'll show up. I hope you'll turn up. If you can't make it, I hope you'll tweet it, text it, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, spread the word. 350 seats. What a shame if we can't fill 350 seats. Again, I know a lot of you want to watch it online if you're a member of the vault. But I think, we used to do 1,800 regularly. Surely we can fill 350 seats and let the Islamists and the Marxists and the globalists know, no, we're here. We're visible. We're collectively gathering together. We're backing this network and these people, these broadcasters, and these people that proclaim truth. And we're backing our fellow Christians and Americans by our physical presence in the building. So I hope you'll do that. I can't stress enough. Don't believe the lies about Memphis. It's a safe community. I would leave if it wasn't. I don't have to live here. I could live anywhere in the country I want to. I chose to move here 21 years ago. I love it here. It's a safe community, Carterville, Tennessee, Germantown. You'll love it. It's a beautiful area, actually. The town is so beautiful and cute, old-fashioned. Go to our town square. Go to some of these restaurants. Enjoy the barbecue, the Southern cooking. You'll love it. So come join us. Spread the word. Get your tickets now. Encourage us as we encourage you as we gather together October 3rd and 4th. Please do that. Register tonight, will you? Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Bring somebody with you. Worldviewstore.com. We'll be right back after this break.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Joining me now is Colonel Rob Maness. He has a brand new piece published on the 12th, yesterday, in Stars and Stripes. Keep artificial intelligence out of the nuclear football. Well, he was one of just 2 or 3 guys that wrote the black manual that goes with the nuclear football. So he would very well know about this topic. And I guess I never really thought about artificial intelligence involved with the nuclear football. What does that mean? And why is it dangerous? Let's talk to the man who's been on the front row of this, dealing with it firsthand and training the man that would train the president on how to use the nuclear football should it happen. Colonel Rob Maness. Colonel, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Brannon. Thanks for having me back.
Great to have you back. Okay. Keep artificial intelligence out of the nuclear football? How would you even do that?
Well, I'm seeing discussions about that. As a matter of fact, the commander, I think he's the former commander now. He might still be current. General Tony Cotton, commander of U.S. Strategic Command, which has overall operational and strategic control over America's nuclear forces, has been advocating for using artificial intelligence in the system called the Nuclear Command and Control and Communication System, or NC3. Well, the final decision in that system is the President of the United States via the nuclear football. So my piece is focused on keeping artificial intelligence out of that final decision because, the main thing is we have to have a human being make the final decision, one that is actually has human emotion, so that the nuances that only the human mind can pick up on from all the situation and information coming in and the situation going on around him or her makes that decision from the perspective of a human being, because it likely will not be the same decision that a artificial intelligence large language model would make. And I come from having read some of the testing reports that we've seen this year, where things like in an AI test, the AI is helping a company make decisions and develop strategy. It's an engineering company, and it's told just by happenstance that one of the engineers is having an affair. And later in the story, in the scenario for this test, that engineer is in opposition to something the AI has as an objective. And the AI develops a plan to blackmail the engineer. So that's the kind of situation we could find ourselves in. I mean, think about it like this. a lot of folks are familiar with the movie War Games. They're familiar with the original Terminator movie and Skynet, that terminology and those kind of things. And where I'm coming from is the human being that makes that decision, in this case, the President of the United States, has to be the one to make the decision. But what General Cotton and a lot of people that I listen to, read, and interact with in the nuclear command and control and nuclear forces field, both current and retired, that may be doing civilian type work and thinking and writing about this stuff too, they're talking about putting artificial intelligence downstream too, to help speed up the process. And it would be in different legs of this communication stream that all culminates at the pinnacle at the military aide that carries a nuclear football talking with the president. So my article is from that perspective, that the president's decision cannot be made by an artificial intelligence large language model, because those cannot feel the human emotion and the nuance and empathy that's needed to make a full human accountable decision. And we don't have AI in our Constitution. The commander-in-chief is the president of the United States that carries all executive power and military power in this country.
So do you think they're going to listen to you?
Also, I don't know that they'll listen to me or not, but I'm also concerned at the downstream pieces of it. You know, initially when I heard it, I was like, okay, we could look at this, because there's different streams of the information, and there's probably places that digitizing, and I know there are, because parts of it were digitized when I was in the service and doing this business too already. But there's also a lot of backups to prevent an accident from happening. And it always comes down to a human. I use an example of a Russian lieutenant colonel in the Soviet armed forces that stopped a response because their systems were showing that our systems had fired on them. Okay, that's an old example, but it took a human in the loop and in the system as part of that system that was part of that initiation of firing nuclear weapons to make the call and go, no, that's not right. Something is off here. Don't push the button. That is what I'm concerned about, is if we put artificial intelligence even all the way up to the military aid, and then the last thing is a complete analog system where the president makes the decision. What if that large language model has done something like in the test exercise that I just described, and has decided on its own that certain pieces of information either aren't important, aren't factually correct, or aren't in alignment with, and this should scare you, with the LLM's creators' political ideology or religious beliefs. And they drive the situation so that the military aid is feeding information even to the human president that's making a decision that may not necessarily be, well, and won't be the best information that they need to make the right decision. And it could change the decision from right to wrong. That should scare you.
So that should scare us, absolutely. Now, what is this picture? I know it's a rhetorical question. I know what it is, but I want to make sure you tell our audience what that is.
Well, that is it's officially called the Confederate Memorial in Arlington National Cemetery in an area called Section 16. Most people refer to it, though, as the Reconciliation Monument. It was sculpted by a Confederate veteran, first Jewish graduate of the Virginia Military Institute, if I remember correctly. His name is Ezekiel Moses. And he actually was asked to be buried there, and that be his grave marker. In Section 16, there are approximately somewhere between 400 and 500 Confederate soldiers that are buried in concentric circles around this monument, or were. The Biden administration, through their renaming commission, removed it illegally because the law that said they could do that said you don't touch cemeteries and memorials in cemeteries, and then they went ahead and did it. It desecrated Moses's grave and desecrated other graves of Confederate soldiers around there. But, you know, that monument was approved in the early 1900s by President Taft And the money was appropriated by McKinley, who was a Union soldier. President McKinley, who was a Union soldier. And then it was dedicated by Woodrow Wilson, who was a Democrat. Okay? And the Grand Army of the Republic commander, the national commander, was there and wrote prolifically about this monument and how important it was to establish that, and that we love each other as comrades in arms, even though we were opponents on the Civil War battlefield. And that's why it's called the Reconciliation Monument. And Moses's writings, the sculptor, actually say that. But then people like Ty Sigel, who is a fake brigadier general, a professor of history at West Point, and got the opportunity of all places to do a video piece for Prager University. I wish PragerU would take that piece down and deny it, because this fake brigadier general, who's really a colonel, retired now, was the vice chairman of the renaming commission, and he wrote an article in the Hill disparaging Secretary Hegseth and all of us that support the Reconciliation Monument, both past and present, by saying things like it's about white supremacy, it doesn't matter, it was only about reconciling white people, et cetera, et cetera. And this guy is a terrible person. He's an un-American Marxist, in my opinion, and one of the people that brought Marxism to West Point, the U.S. Military Academy, and it's got to be eradicated. And we need to start with him being eradicated from his retirement. He is such a traitor to the unification and union of this country as it is today, in large part because of that Reconciliation Monument and the people that approved it and put it there, and the Americans that died that are buried in that cemetery, which is a unified cemetery now. You know, there was a time when Confederate soldiers weren't allowed to be buried in a federal cemetery. This monument's creation ended that. It wasn't too long after this, a couple of decades, where the United States government designated Confederate veterans to be considered U.S. veterans from a Veterans Affairs perspective. And Veterans Affairs, you can get it today. You can order a Confederate States of America veteran headstone from the VA if you have a Confederate veteran that's unmarked and you have the documentation to do it. People do it all the time. The Confederate headstones are pointed at the top instead of rounded. Seen the normal white tombstone looking markers for U.S. veterans. The Confederate ones have a peak at the top instead of a rounding. That's how you can tell the difference.
Well, and we were in Arlington Cemetery in May for filming. You probably saw our documentary on Robert E. Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And while we were there filming at Arlington House, we went looking for the grave of his in-laws, Custis, the grandson of Martha Washington. Mm-hmm. And we were on the phone with you a couple times because we were looking for this. And you explained to us that they've taken away the monument, but they left the base. You couldn't take away the base without disturbing the graves around it, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying our hardest to find it. Couldn't find it. We finally had to give up. We'll go back eventually, I think, and find it, maybe film it again. Now, has it been put back yet, by the way?
No, the secretary just gave the order a few days ago, last week, I think, a little bit more than a few days. And they're saying it's going to take 2 years to do it. Now, they took this thing down. Once they started taking it down, they took it down in just a few days. But some work's got to be done on the base because they damaged the base. And then I don't know if they damaged the sculptures at all. It comes off in panels, the way if I remember correctly. They've got to do that, but it shouldn't take 2 years. That's one of the things that the group Defend Arlington, you can find them at Defend Arlington on X. I just interviewed one of the litigants in their lawsuit this past Monday, a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Ed Kennedy, who was one of the litigants in the case that that they brought against Lloyd Austin to have it stopped because they were breaking the law that was passed by Congress on the renaming commission that prohibited messing around and taking stuff out of cemeteries. But they broke the law anyway and got away with it. Well, now it's going to get put back in. So we've got to keep the pressure on, keep talking about this, keep it in the public eye, because it shouldn't take 2 years. They need to get on it. And it needs to be permanently put back in place and protected legally, like what needs to be done with every single monument in the United States, no matter who it's to. And I mean, even the one to Lenin out in Seattle, I think it's in Seattle, Washington, or Portland, Oregon, where those commies live out there. Even that one should be protected. This is wrong, especially, with these. I had a chance to talk to my great grandmother on my dad's mother's side. Her father was a Civil War Confederate veteran, and she told me directly when I was a boy. I remember it distinctly. She told me the story about her and her friends going around and collecting pennies to pay for these.
Oh, wow.
And she told me the story about she's the one that filled out her dad's pension paperwork because he couldn't read and write for the state of Tennessee to get his military pension. And I have a copy of the card that she filled out for him. So it's families like that of soldiers that fought for their country. They weren't fighting for white supremacy or slavery. They were fighting for the principles that their states banded together for as the Confederacy, which is they didn't want a tyrannical central government stopping them from being able to use their private property or travel or try to make them do things that the Constitution didn't allow and those kind of things. Yes, slavery was part of it because it was the impetus to a lot of those debates, but that wasn't what the idea was. As a matter of fact, the war wasn't even about slavery. But Abraham Lincoln said that himself. The war was about trying to keep the Union together, and there was a huge debate about whether secession was legal or not. And you know what? That's never been settled. That's why nobody was ever tried and convicted of treason, because these men fought for a different country. Matter of fact, Robert E. Lee, if you look at the way he had to leave the Union to go with his state, it was at the very last moment. It was after a lot of thought, and it was about his honor and his family's honor. And you mentioned Custis. So his family, his wife's family, is direct lineage to George Washington.
Yep, that's right.
Direct lineage. Okay. So the debate about this and the fact that you have these Julie people like this Marxist from West Point formerly out there saying this is about white supremacy. It was all about slavery. They're traitors. There was treason. None of that is accurate. It's not accurate, people. Go read the real history. Go read the real history. And you'll see that the truth is these men and women in some cases, and in some cases black people from the South, some because their masters asked them to, some because they volunteered, were actually soldiers on the Confederate side because they were fighting for the idea of independence and not having to live under a centralized tyrannical government the way it was developing.
100%. And yet we get people, we have them here on this show sometimes, they're so bold in their proclamation. The Civil War is about slavery, and anyone that says otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, right. Go follow on X at Jeff_Davis1808. That's an account that puts out factual, primary source information, things like speeches from Senator Jefferson Davis or Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, primary sources from Union generals and Union political elected officials and Abraham Lincoln himself that talk about what the realities were. And the reality was, look, slavery was the wrong way to be in this country. Our founding ideas didn't support it. They should have left it in Jefferson's first draft. Yes, his first draft abolished slavery, chattel slavery in this country of the Declaration of Independence, but they didn't. And we had to go through a period of history that resulted in over 600,000 dead Americans before it finally ended it. And this war wasn't about that, but in the end, it did help eradicate it and end it. That's
and how would the country
the
look?
way things are.
How would the country look today? Would we have an IRS? Would we have the powerful central government we have today?
No, I don't think so. I think the Lincoln's actions and every action thereafter at the centralized federal government resulted in the two constitutional amendments that have destroyed the republic. One is the one that made senators elected by the popular vote in their states instead of representing their states and being the cooling off body of the legislature from a states' right perspective. And the other was the income tax. That's why this country has been destroyed as the republic that the founders knew, and anybody that was in the government up to 1861, including Lincoln himself. He knows what he did.
And so you tend to believe that Lincoln was not a great president. He was more of a tyrant, right?
Well, he did accomplish his goal. I mean, you have to acknowledge the greatness of that, but I don't agree that he was right or legally or honorably for initiating the war and continuing to fight the war in order to preserve the Union, because the compact of the Constitution was entered voluntarily by each state, and there was never anything written down. That's why there's never been a settled court case. There's never been a conviction of treason over this issue of secession, because it had been tried in the northern states before. It almost happened, but they were able to reconcile the difference and fix it. And Lincoln said this war is about preserving the Union, and he initiated hostilities intentionally in order to do that.
And then they used slavery basically as the camouflage to kind of try to have the moral high ground, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's camouflage or just that as things evolved, they saw the opportunity. You know how politicians are. Mm-hmm. They saw the opportunity to do the abolishment amendment in the Constitution, and then eventually to be able to eradicate slavery completely by the time the war was over, and then enforce that in the period of Reconstruction, which there's a huge amount of debate on the Reconstruction period, especially from the people that I know that were of my Southern heritage, my ancestors. Mm-hmm. I've heard them.
And of course, Robert E. Lee was upset that the federal troops were running across Virginia and North Carolina, and this is why a lot of these states, Virginia and others, joined, right? Headed to South Carolina, correct?
Lee was actually offered command of the Union Army, and his famous letter that he wrote at a desk right there in Arlington House. I'm sure you saw it.
We did.
Saw it there.
It's in our documentary.
His famous note to the president explaining that Virginia has now seceded, and I must go with my country, my state, which they called their country in those days. Look, the United States has always been a group of individual, independent countries that banded together out of necessity to defend themselves, to create commerce, to have a vibrant economy, and to prevent the American people's rights from being taken.
So we don't say that today. I live in the country of Tennessee. You live in the country of Mississippi.
Yeah.
We're going to bring that back.
That's one of the things that we would be saying, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The fact that we talk so much about the federal government shows you we're in an unconstitutional system. There's no reason why we should talk about the federal government so much, and it should involve so much of our time and energy. The fact that I
don't know if I totally agree with you about it being an unconstitutional system, because the amendments to the Constitution were passed, so they're part of the Constitution. But it's definitely an unconstitutional country the way the people that crafted the Declaration and then wrote the Constitution of the United States and their intentions. It's broken.
It's not. Exist. In other words, you're saying it's not going with the original intent.
Right.
Okay. So they've. Yeah, that's a good point. But take the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The powers the federal government has are limited and expressed. The unlisted powers belong to the states in respect to people thereof. You get the federal government doing all kinds of things that are not in the Constitution. That's one reason I'd say that we have an unconstitutional system today. Where do you see the Department of Education? Where do you see so much of what's happening? Where do you see the FBI?
And see, none of those would have passed had we still had a Senate that was representing states. What's happened is the states have abrogated their power over time. Those two amendments are the core removal of that power, regardless of whether they actually changed that in the Constitution or not. Their existence and their passage changed that from a power perspective and shifted states' power and the people's power to the federal government inappropriately and unconstitutionally, because the 9th and 10th Amendment are still there, and they're still in force.
And the question is, are we headed for a breakup? Because you see that California is saying, their governor, Newsom, is saying, we're going to rewrite redistricting and add a bunch of Congress people and take away some of your Republicans. And Texas is saying, we're going to do this. And it's, got Illinois hiding them out, New York hiding them out. I don't know about you, but I'm already starting to see the signs of a breakup. We can't even agree at the state level with the basics of law. We only count American citizens. These lawless Marxist Democrats want to count illegal aliens. So
it started with the Obama administration.
Right.
Where
so
that really started.
Are we not already seeing the fractures of the fact that we're not even on the same page, wanting to follow the rule of law and make sure the system is really, really fair, not only fair, but legal, constitutional? No, we're going to count non-citizens. I mean, how long can a union stay together when Texas and New York and Texas and Illinois and Texas and California we can't even agree that, no, illegals should not be voting or they should not be counted so that you have the number and makeup of your House of Representatives in the House. I mean, if you can't agree on those clear-cut basic things, then you add everything else to it. I don't see how this union can survive. I really don't.
I'm very concerned about it, have been for some time now, and have spoken about it. I'm not an advocate for secession or a breakup of the union. We're stronger, better, we're stronger together than we are divided and separated. But it won't surprise me if that happens, because now you see both sides of the aisle, executive leadership and legislative leadership in the individual states, talking in serious ways about separating themselves in one way or another.
How so?
Well, Newsom is out there in California saying, well, we're not going to enforce these laws and those kind of things. I mean, at some point, when you have that going on, you pointed out Texas now, New York. I live in a state that's got a congressional district designed by race. That's supposed to be against the law. And I think this redistricting effort is right on the mark. It's right on target, Brannon. We should be going in the states that have Republican majorities and redistrict now. We shouldn't have a majority Democrat district in this state. You know what? Massachusetts doesn't have a majority Republican district anywhere. And the numbers are exactly the same when you look at how many percentage of Democrats versus Republicans. They're just flipped in Massachusetts as they are in Mississippi. A young man that's an activist, I think he's turned congressional staffer, tweeted that out last week. I retweeted it and said, you're exactly right. We should redistrict here in Mississippi and have a majority congressional district 100% Republican, and we can do that. We shouldn't be designing congressional districts because of a particular race. That's crazy. It's against the law. That's where we ought to be. The equal application of the laws of this land. If we would just do that, there wouldn't be any discussion about splitting up. But we're not.
Yeah. Very, very well said. You guys want to follow him on X? Here it is. Here's his handle. @Rob Maness. Maness. @Rob Maness. He's on every day, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, right here at worldviewtube.com. As always, Colonel, great to interview you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brannon.
Colonel Rob Maness checking in, robmaness.com and @Rob Maness on X. Follow him. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com.
that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your support. Hey, Dolly, you want to say goodnight to everybody? Worldviewfoundation.com, Worldview Foundation. You love your daddy? Yeah, you love your daddy, don't you? You're a good girl, aren't you? Yes, you are. You're the bestest girl. You're such a good girl. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Dolly, you might even make an appearance on the platform at the national conference coming up. I think we'll have you walk out like you did in April. Yeah, like you did in April. And maybe this conference I can let you come out and be with the people a little bit. And people get their picture with you. Would you like that? You know, a lot of people write us and talk to us about you. Yeah, you have a lot of people that love you. Do you know that? You don't know that. I don't think you do. But yeah, I think she'll make an appearance at the national conference, October 3rd and 4th. Yeah. All right, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you for watching. Till next time, may God save America. Take care.
Moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this August 13th, 2025. August 13th, 2025. All right, so we dealt with it last night with Aaron Lavarco. The it that we dealt with was Tucker Carlson's guest. And I'm still not sure if we're not being spoofed here. If this isn't theater. But apparently this is Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. That is apparently George Stephanopoulos' sister. And that would be a big question mark at the end of that sentence. But we're going to try to be nice. We're going to try really hard to be nice. But it does seem like a spoof. Because if you see her, you'll know what I'm talking about. All right? And she is saying some very, very unkind things about Christians, about Zionists. I'm going to have Dr. Andy Woods on and Dr. Rob Lindstedt to respond. Now, if you watched my broadcast last night, you'll notice that Aaron, well, he was really working hard to be kind and gracious. Me, not so much. I had this lady's number from the beginning. And it's very interesting because if you watch the full hour I did with Aaron last night, as we played a lot of clips by her. I found a few new ones today that I didn't play last night. But if you watched last night, we played a lot of clips of her attacking Christians, Christian Zionists, those who believe in the rapture, pushing big time Islamic talking points. Now, I kept trying to get Aaron to just come on board and be as blunt as I was being, but he just kept wanting to be Aaron, super nice and gracious. Well, finally, toward the end, he's like, okay, she's crossed the line now. She's crossed the line now. I'm not going to be so gracious anymore. I should have started with the worst clips first. Well, it's bad. And I don't know what Tucker's doing. He seems to have lost his ever-living mind. Now, I'm going to have, tonight on Brannon Howse Live, I'm going to have on Anni Cyrus about it. Oh, and then I'm going to have on Trevor Loudon, because I'm thinking that Mother Acapia Stephanopoulos is basically, in my opinion, an agent of the KGB. Now that would be called the FSB. She's Russian Orthodox. And so I started doing a little more research on her today. And I'm thinking, she's not just pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, anti-Christian, attacking the Bible, Christian doctrines, the millennial kingdom. The idea of the millennial kingdom, she says, is a fallacy, it's a heresy. Not just the rapture, the idea of the millennial kingdom. You mean like the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth. Really? Where? On earth. As it is in heaven. When will that happen? During the 1,000-year millennial reign. Which, hey, guess what? We're about to enter that on Sunday night. Not enter the millennial kingdom on Sunday night. But we're about, don't I wish. But I'm sorry. We would be 7 years into that, even if the rapture occurred today. So I guess at any given moment, we're 7